Hello everyone, welcome back to the table. What we're going to do today is just kind of a little tiny playthrough of the first scenario from Heroes of Stalingrad. This is really just an introductory game, to kind of get you used to some of the basic mechanics, and the scenario units are deviated just slightly from their platoon layout here. So let's just take a look at what we're given. Now, for the Russian player, he's got, let me move this out of the way. We'll look at German here in just a second. He's going to be using the Volga Rifle Battalion. It does come with ammo, which gives you 3 of these +1 tokens, and you can use it on a combat roll. Before you make your combat roll, you have to decide if you want to use the die. So if it's a very important shot, then you could spend a token, roll, add that to your dice roll to see if you hit. Alright, so that's kind of cool. We start with some of those. So 3 of those. Then, here on the recruitment tile, it says we get Lieutenant Yuri. However, the scenario is going to give us Lieutenant Boris. So Boris has 1 star, which corresponds to 1 order cube, block, square. And we get a DP machine gun, and it says it's going to be on the inactive side. So with this, there's 2 sides. Essentially, you've got this side here where the people are kind of mobile, if you will. And then if I want the bipod tripod active, I would have to flip it as an action in like the deployment phase, and then I would then use this side here to have them more effective as a machine gun unit. All right, but you're going to start here on the inactive side. And then we have, so that's that. Then we have 2 fire teams. And we'll go over some combat stats when we start doing play. But I'm going to get 2 fire teams. And then I have a Frontovic. I have no idea what that is. So how does that deviate from your platoon here, your recruitment card? Basically, I got tweezers. Yes. Do I want those tweezers? I want this knife. Okay, so here, this tells you what you recruit. If I was going to use this recruitment tile in like an open-end game, so I would have Lieutenant Yuri, I would have the Frontovic, and I'd have the 2 fire teams. Then I would have to have a recruitment tile to stick in here to buy the DP-28. But the scenario says I get the DP-28. The other rule the scenario says is that the DP-28 is worth 1 star. So what happens is, as you recruit stuff from your tile and you buy things, every star gives you 1 order token, and this is how you activate units on the board. So as a special rule, the DP-28 has a star. We'll just pretend the star is there. If the DP-28 unit is destroyed, I lose that star and I lose 1 of my deployment tokens. And then everybody gets a bluff. So I have several units, so at the start of a turn, I have to decide how would I play these tokens to actually activate, do things, and then possibly bluff the opponent. So that's the Russian forces. Or Soviet at this time. One of the two. Who is it? They say it's Russians. Okay, so here we go. We got Russians. Now this is Germans. Now this is a much smaller deployment. I have an MG-34 team, which will also be on their inactive deployment side, start and out. We get 1 fire group. Here, make it easier to see. 1 fire group, and oh wait, I think I left one out. It is, oh, I get 2 fire groups. I gotta grab 1 more fire group. But we also get Oberlieutenant Volroth. Let me grab 1 more fire team. Yeah, I was really worried. I was like, wow, there's a lot of Russians and only a few German units. Now, we don't get, well, actually, this is everything. So, if I look here at the deployment for this particular platoon, I have, this says Oberlieutenant Lingurki, but it tells me to take Volroth for whatever reason. Then it gets a recon group. No recon group according to the scenario, but I do get my well, it's one fire group. So here, the scenario gives me 2 fire groups, whereas normally I would get a recon group according to that deployment. Let me make sure I'm reading it right. Yep, fire group. And then the MG34, here's the MG34. So again, the scenario has deviated from these recruitment tiles ever so slightly. Now, Oberlieutenant Lingurki has 2 stars, so I'm going to get 2 of these order tokens and the bluff. So if this lieutenant dies, this army is pretty much out of play. I would say that's the only drawback I really have with this system, is so much emphasis on the leader. That's why it's a hero system. But the thing is, your heroes carry those precious stars. So if you start to lose heroes, you start to lose any ability to use your army. So just keep that in mind. You want to keep them safe, which kind of makes sense, right? They're back in headquarters issuing orders, but sometimes that's your hero who has like a really good ability. So you got to really, really kind of weigh the chance of him dying or her dying and involving them in the battle. But anyway, those are the 2 armies that we'll be facing off today. So I'm going to set those aside. We have our turn tracker. I have rolled ahead of time to determine that the Russians will go first. There is 6 turns, so as we progress, they'll flip back and forth, so they will alternate initiative on each turn. And there's no special scenario rules or anything like that. And I will pause this, reshift the camera so I can get the 2 map boards that will be in play, and then we'll start moving people around. Alright, I've bumped this around a little bit. I've tried to get this nice and even. Hopefully that looks pretty good on the camera. I can't tell. My camera angle might be a little off. Anyhow, one of the things to do for the setup is determine, this is the 2 map tiles. It's CB3A. And this one is CB1A. I just have them laid out according to the diagram. We then have the objective, which is pretty much smack dab in the middle here of the map. And it says the objective is to get 1 infantry unit within one of these 4 adjacent hexes at the end of the supply phase, before the end of turn 6. So we're just going to try and race up there, defend the position. Then you draw 2 cards. So for the German player, I drew this card. It is the initiative, so we'll play before the activation of an enemy unit. So when we're revealing order tiles, if let's say my opponent is going to activate their number 2 person, I can activate my number 2 person instead, or 3 or whatever. So as long as it's the same number, I can activate mine first if the Russian player has initiative. I can steal the initiative momentarily. Courage, play at any time. Remove a suppressed marker from one of your units. So if we end up with suppression, which could, because there's machine gun units, maybe. Then for the Russian player, we have the tactician. Play at the start of the orders phase. For this turn, you have an additional numbered order token. So in anticipation of that, I have grabbed the number 3, so that will be available when I choose to use it. And then we have all train. Play before the movement action of one of your infantry units. Your unit ignores the restrictions tied to difficult passage. Now, you do start with 2, and then it's like, if I remember right, at the end of the phase, I had to look. I haven't played this in a while, so I started playing. I was so excited, just going off memory, but I'll double check, because it's either at the end of the turn or beginning of the turn, you draw 1 card, or however many the scenario says, but I'm going to have a bunch of cards at some point that I will probably forget to use. Hopefully not. Now, also according to deployment of the scenario, I have a German fire group here. Oop, he's too far forward. Let's back him up. Here's the other German fire group. Here's the MG34. Here is Lieutenant Volroth. Then over here we have a Russian fire team, the Frontovik, the other fire team, the DP-28 unit, and then we have Boris. Now, let me know. I tried to have this zoomed down enough just so you can see the entire board. Hopefully the pieces are big enough that you can see what's going on. But, if you would prefer that I zoom in more to look at stuff, let me know. That way the next time I play, I can zoom in specifically when people are doing things so you can see what's going on. Otherwise, I'll just kind of leave it like this. This is a small scenario, 2 maps. It seemed to fit well. I do have the game markers on the outside that you can't see. Hopefully you don't need to see those. I have my dice rolling thing somewhere. It's like in the other room for something else. Maybe I can use this. Yeah, we'll use that for rolling dice if I need to roll dice. So we'll just stick that there. All right, that's basically it for setup. And I did determine ahead of time the Russians had initiative, so they would go first. Now, normally what you do at the beginning is you alternate your initiative tokens. So first of all, the Russian player is going to play that tactician card and give himself, me, that extra order. So the way this works, and you would also do this alternating back and forth. And since I'm solo playing, I'm going to try and do that. So the Russian player would play first. Now remember, if you're playing against an opponent, you do have a bluff. And so you want to try and change the order of your deployment of order token, maybe versus in the order you want to activate stuff. Again, just all about bluff. Because if I play my 1, and if you always start with your number 1, then your opponent can react to that without having doing anything yet. So if I say, okay, my front of Vic is number 1, and then, you know, I could say, oh, his front of Vic is number 1. Well, I want my fire group to be number 1. So this is why this is a hidden deployment, and you might want to say, I'm going to play my bluff. So your opponent will never know exactly, or should never know exactly the order that you're going to activate your units. Now, because I am playing solo, I kind of know, but if I was not playing solo, you just put these face down. And then as we play, you know, you just reveal that that unit is, you know, your first activation. So what I'm going to do is leave these face up so we can see. But I just want you to understand, as a solo game, that's the one thing you kind of lose out on, is that hidden activation. Or at least I haven't come up with a system of hidden activations I like. I mean, I thought about doing a thing where I would just kind of shake it up and then randomly put these down. But that's not very strategic or fair to the Russians. But you know what? Let's do that. Now that I've said that, let's do it. Okay, we're going to shake these up. And, oh, of course, let's see. I'm going to put these down. I shook them up a little bit. Mix them up now. Now the thing is, you generally have fewer tokens than you have units. So this is the other problem, is which units would I put these on? What I'm going to do is just put these all along the front line here. So I don't know what the Russian player is going to do. Now, as the German player, now remember we can alternate, but since I'm just doing solo and these are randomly assigned, I'm just going to go, here's my bluff on my lieutenant. I'm going to get my MG team not moving. I'll show you why in a minute. But I'm going to activate a fire group and a fire group. There. Now we would have deployed everything. And then if there's any special card actions and whatnot, you know, just keep track of that for each phase as you play, because when you move from like the order activations and then you start actually doing actions, you might have things that you can do. So just kind of keep track of that. I had to get a drink of wild cherry Pepsi there for a second. Alright, so the Russian player is going to go first. They had initiative. So because I don't know, I'm actually just going to flip these up now. And I'm going to be surprised. Oh, fire team, number 1. Okay. Now, the idea is we want to get up here. There's no cover. This is, even though you see all this debris, it's not offering any cover. This one crater has some protection. Otherwise, this is all open. Here's some cover here. So the German player is going to want to rush to these woods because he's got a chance to kind of get in there and have a little bit of extra protection. Can't move light vehicles, but we're good there. -1, I think that's line of sight to range, kind of a penalty. Okay, so I think we're okay. So let's move up here. Now to move, this is where I should zoom in or have a graphic of a unit and describe it, but yeah, we're not that fancy. So I've got 3 movement points with this fire team. So I have an arrow with a 3. I don't see, well, yeah, there's no impediment to movement other than it's prohibited to light vehicles. So what I'm going to do is move 1, 2, 3. And he's done. So normally, again, if I was like playing with an opponent, right, I would keep these face down, and then as they've been activated, I'll leave them face up. Maybe that's what I'll do. That way I don't confuse myself on who's done what. So he went. Now we go over to the German player. Same thing. I know that this is my first person to activate, and he also has 3 movement points. 1, 2. Now I don't see anything here, any of the symbology that has any penalties to movement. So it's like maybe light brush. So they're just going to push their way in, and the defense probably isn't so much that it's going to stop bullets, but it makes them harder to see. So they've moved 3. Now if they were going to shoot, or someone shoot in at them, they would also have this line of sight penalty. And on top of this, because you're shooting through the shrubbery, it's hard to see out of. Okay, so they're good. They've moved. And then we come back over here. Who is my number 2? Alright, so this fire team is my second unit. You can move 3. Again, we can move up. 1, 2, 3. Because we're trying to rush to get up here. So I'll just say he's been done activated. And this was my number 2 unit. And again, this is all out in the open. So when they start shooting, they're going to be, you know, hurting. Now they could shoot now, but if you go beyond 7 spaces, there's like a -2 penalty to hit. There's like 2 to the difficulty. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so that's long range. Could take the shot, but again, we're contesting this area, so we're going to move up as well. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Then we come back here to the Russian player. The Russian player, because they played a card that gave them an extra token, they're going to move this unit now. Now that might not be the smartest, but we will. We'll move them. Well, we might shoot with them. Hold on. Let's see where we're at. Their non-deployed stats aren't as good as far as shooting and stuff. They'll get bonuses to shooting infantry in the open once they deploy. 6, 7. So it's 8 as well. So it's +2, -2. Their defensive 4. I would hit on a 4+. You know what? That's what we'll do. Go big or go home. We're going to shoot with that unit. Okay, so here's how combat works. Again, going off memory, it's been a while. After you determine range, and I know this is a 2 penalty because of the range, I look over here at my block of numbers. For shooting this color of shield, this orange to orange or yellow yellow, I get a +2 shooting at infantry units. Subtract 2 for range, that becomes a 0. So then I look at the defense here of the German fire group, which is a 4, and there's no train bonuses. So I know that this DP28 unit needs to roll a 4 or higher. That's still actually pretty good chances of hitting. That's not too bad. What is that, 50% chance? 4. That's very bad for the fire group out in the open. So what we do then is we flip them. So they go to their reduced side. And all you got to do is you look down here, and I have a skull with a little circular arrow thing. That means you flip it. So I flip it. Now, if you notice down here, the health, there's no flip symbol. So that means if they get hit again, they're eliminated from the game. Very simple. If you have a medic or something else, they might have special abilities to heal that back, but that's pretty rare. And you're not getting that here. This is nitty-gritty down in the dirt shooting at each other. So their combat effectiveness drops. And I had a bluff unit. So the bluff units don't do anything, right? It's just a bluff, nothing. Now, after you have done your main activations, you get a deployment phase or redeployment. And what you do is, starting with initiative player, any unit that did not do anything or did not have like an order assigned to it gets a free movement. And there are some rules, if I try to remember, something about if you're within a certain range of the enemy that might be hindered. but we're pretty far away, so that's nice because it does allow you to, kind of get troops in position without always having to rely on the orders. But the Russian player would go first. So again, I'm going to keep the lieutenant alive, so we're going to keep him in the back. But this Frontovic unit, they're going to move up. They can move 3. So they've moved. So Russian player is done with their deployment. Then the German player gets the same opportunity to move some troops up, and they're going to move 1, 2, 3. Might not be the best idea, but they've now moved. And that would be the end of the deployment. And I have here in the rule book that I've sat down, as I drop some other things. What did I drop? Flocking grass material. In the back of this here, rule book, it did have a nice little reminder of things. So after the activation phase, we do the supply phase. Check for special abilities. Let's see. Resolve all related effects from special abilities. Then do cards, recruitment options. Then scenario effects. Discard all bluff order tokens. We did. Then the player has initiative. Moves their units if they want. Once the player with the initiative is done, then the other player goes. Then we resolve anything that happens at the end of the supply phase. Then we discard as many action cards as you wish. Then draw until you reach your maximum hand size as indicated by the scenario, which our hand size is 2, because it said draw 2 cards. Move the initiative marker 1 notch. So let's see here. I'm going to look at my cards and see if I want. This card I have here for the Russian player, the all-terrain card. Ignore the restriction. I'm going to go ahead and discard that. Not too important. And for the German player, I probably could have done this initiative. It doesn't matter. I'm going to keep that one. Then courage. Remove a suppressed marker from one of your units. I think I'm going to discard that one. Then the Russian player draws 2 cards. We now have Terrain Ivan. We have Terrible Ivan. Play during an assault. This assault is not resolved. Instead, the defending unit is compelled to spend its entire movement value in a full move. The attacker unit must occupy the defender's square. You, as the Russian player, move the defender, but you cannot send it off the board or cause its elimination. Oh, wow. That's a big oorah charge. And then we got fall back. Play when one of your infantry units suffers a hit or would be destroyed by an assault. Ignore the result and place a suppressed marker on your unit. If your unit has the change of state special ability, flip its token to the side with the highest movement value. Your unit must retreat 2 squares regardless of its movement value. If your opponent is the attacker, his unit must move into the square. Well, that's kind of cool. Well, we'll keep that. Well, I drew it, so I can't discard it now. Then the German player draws Second Chance. Play this card to alter the result of a die roll. Reroll or make someone reroll all dice for a given result and apply the new result. Okay, cool. You get a reroll. Then we advance the turn marker, which again I have it off board, but I flipped it to the German side to represent they now have the initiative, and we're on turn 2. That's the basics of the game right there. Now that's all going to be modified, combat and everything, by the little symbols on your units. Like we've got the assault symbol, so they can enter assault. Can't enter assault with my DP-28, but it does have the deploy symbol. So let me just take a look here real quick at when I can actually deploy to that tripod side. Alright, I'm back. Not that you knew maybe, but I just looked. So the units with the tripod, bipod, whatever that is, they can activate that at the end of a movement or beginning of a movement. So if I say activate this unit, I don't have to move. I can just simply say they're deploying their tripod. Or I could move and then flip them to their tripod side. And they have better stats when they're on their tripod side. So for example, the MG34, when it's in the mobile state, which, just in case you can't see the symbol, when they are in this active side, their attack value is a 0. But once they deploy to their bipod side, they then get +4 versus infantry. So part of what you're... Oh man, 1, 2, 3. I hope they were here. So part of it is deciding where to put them for maximum effectiveness, and then when do you flip them over. And you can flip it once per turn, just essentially at the beginning or end of their movement. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. No, we're going to deploy now. So these guys dropped to the ground. Oh, hold on. I started playing. I hadn't even assigned anything yet. Oh my goodness, what was I doing, Eddie? I was so excited. Alright, so with the new turn, German player has initiative. So I'm going to place a number 1 token on my MG34 unit because I want them to open up and start shooting stuff. Now the Russian player, because again you would alternate, but I'm just doing my own artificial AI. Shuffle these up a little bit. And I'm going to put these all along here. Since we don't have that third order, 2 of these are real, 1 is a bluff. This is real. Then my other fire group will go, no, the full strength, yeah, the weak one will go, and then my bluff. Yeah. Solo, kind of a pain. It really just plays out kind of more like a traditional board game solo. But remember, face to face, that's where the bluff system really, really shines. But we're going to make it work for us here. Alright, German player goes first. So, here we go. I'm going to open up with that MG34. But on who? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to shoot here at the Frontovic. No, we're going to shoot at this far unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, perfect. It's like 5 away. Nothing fancy. So we're going to shoot there. They're in the open. Oh, I forgot I get to deploy them because it's the start of their. Well, it says their move action. So you know what? Now that I think about it, that is their action to deploy. Because the move, it's either move or fire kind of a thing. So really, I guess that would be the end of them. I don't think they have a move and fire. There are some units that have a move and fire symbol, like some tanks. I think if I got one here that might have it. Yeah, I think it's this symbol here. It's got the move symbol, the little explosions to signify firing, and then the penalty for firing on the move. I think the tanks have that too. So this unit can't fire and move. So technically what that means is they're spending their activation to deploy. What I should have done was in the deployment was not given them an activation order, but during the redeployment have them move up, and then they could have deployed their tripod. Now, without rewinding and playing, I don't know if I did move them up secondary or if... See, I don't remember if I gave them an order token or not, or if I moved them up as part of the deployment phase, which is when I would have deployed that tripod. So now I'm wasting their turn. Ugh. See, like I said, it's been a while since I played, and these ideas are coming back to me. So I got this learned for next time. So next time, if I got to move them, don't assign them an order token, move them in that redeployment phase, and then flip them to what you want. So we just kind of wasted that token. Well, who's number 1 over here? It was that fire team that I was going to shoot at. But see, here's the thing. They're going to move up. 1, 2. They now have someone here. And the scenario condition is if someone is close here at the end, then they win. So what I have to do then is find my number 2 player, because he was the bluff. I gave him the activation, right? So we're going to go 1, 2. Now, he does have the assault symbol. I could move in to fight, but they're not going to. But they are now contesting ownership of that hex. So next turn, the Russian player goes first. That'll be pivotal. They'll either fire attack or do an assault. And since they're weakened, he could do an assault. He might win. And we would explain assault when that happens too. Okay, so that was initiative-wise. Second, I got to find the Russian number 2. This was a bluff. The Frontovic was the bluff. And this fire team is the next one to go. So they're going to move up to reinforce the combat over here. 1, 2. That'll give them some defense. So there's a +1 shield. Light vehicle, well, vehicle movement prohibited there. So we'll just go, I think that's light vehicle. Then the gray is heavy. All right, and then we have the 2 bluffs. So that's the end of the movement and activations. So then the deployment. So anybody who did not have a token. See, for example, this fire group, he can move up now, but you can't like move into assault. So he's actually going to move right here. And that way he can maintain a +1 defense, but he can now shoot at stuff. These guys are going to move up, so they can try and hold that. So the drawback is if this unit is eliminated, they're going to win. So you know what I'm going to do? It's too late. I already moved them. I already took my fingers off. What I should have done was moved up here. That way if this guy's eliminated, I have the potential to still maintain a draw. But if this unit gets eliminated and I have nobody else here, that means the Russians will end at the end of the turn. So that was probably bad planning all around on my part. Okay, and I still haven't even used the DP-28 team. Oh yeah, I did. They fired once, but that was with an extra order. Okay, so end of the turn. We could discard our cards. I'm going to keep the cards that we have. So we're just going to stay at the 2 cards. And I'm going to advance the turn marker over here. So it is now the start of turn 3. Russians will have the advantage. I probably need to take these off first. So now Russian player goes first. So what I'm going to do is shake it up. So they're shaking up a little bit. One last random rearrangement. You. Then me. MG34. Fire group from a protected spot. And the bluff. They're just there to maintain boots on the ground. Russian player. Let's find his number 1. That's the bluff. Here's number 1. It's the Frontovic. Alright, so they are going to now secure victory by shooting at this unit. They're going to spend 1 ammo. This is going to give them +1 to their attack roll. So what do we need? Right now, they have a +2 to attacking infantry. This infantry has a 5 defense, so there's no train. So they have to roll a 3 or higher. They rolled a 1. Okay, so boom, they're still alive. Now I will say, just a side note, I know you want to see the action, but this is the one aspect some of my more hardcore gamer friends don't like, is you only roll 1 die 6. That's not a whole lot of granularity to combat. You know, they're used to rolling like 2 die 6, and you check a chart and that tells you like potentially how many hits, this, that, and the other thing you get. So this is very simple, but when it's you and a player and you know what you're doing, it moves fairly quick. So this is the frustration that sometimes you have. I even added a +1 ammo, so that gave me a grand total of 2, and I needed a 3 to hit. So yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so now let me flip that so I remember that they need to do something. MG34 team opens up, and they're going to attack this unit, because I forgot which one was the second activation. It's a 50-50, but since they've already gone, so no need to eliminate them or hurt them in some way. This team, they haven't done anything yet, so I'm going to see if I can weaken them. So I have +4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 away. They are in no cover bonuses. I think this is the only one with a cover bonus. So I have +4. They are a 4 normal. So basically, that means I'm gonna hit. I need a 4 to hit. I rolled a 3 +4. So that MG34 team just flip them, hurt them, and now their combat value is only +1. The defense is better because basically when they flip, it's like saying they're now going for cover, so they're a little harder to hit. All right, who was my number 2? They were number 2. Believe me, I truly had forgotten. But I'm glad I did that. I did that because 1, right, they were adjacent to the objective. And then 2, if I weakened them and they were next, they're only attacking with a +1 versus their normal +2. But yeah, they're going to shoot here. Now, you could do an assault. The thing with an assault is the attacker will roll. Well, whoever's got the dagger symbol rolls 2 dice to keep the higher die result. So there's potentially the outcome that we could assault really well. But the problem is, he's got an assault too. So it's probably better off just to shoot. I do have the card Terrible Ivan, which, you know what? Bam! That's exactly what we're going to do. Check this out. Terrible Ivan kicks in. It says, play during an assault when attacking. This assault is not resolved. Instead, the defending unit is compelled to spend its entire movement value in a full move. The attacker unit must occupy the defender's square. You, as the Russian player, move the defender, but you cannot send it off the board or cause its elimination. Boom! That's exactly what I'm doing. I pop in here. This does not occur, but I force the German player back 3 spaces, right? 1, 2, 3, full movement. We scared them. Yeah. Instead, it's compelled to spend its entire movement value in a full move. I mean, I can move it anywhere, it says, but I can't move it off the board or into an elimination spot. So that card's used. And that card right there pretty much guaranteed the victory right there, because I no longer have any German units. That's why I said this unit here. Had I been thinking about it, I would have moved him up instead of being worried about staying in cover, because ain't nobody shooting at him. But that was my bluff. Here's the bluff. And yeah. Oh, he's number 2. Plot twist. He was number 1. Plot twist. I forgot to have the number 2 guy do something. Yeah, so what I could do is move him up. I can move him into assault here. Risky, but if I win, I'll eliminate that unit and retain control. But if I lose, I think I got to fall back 1. So what we're going to do is instead, we're just going to move here. And now the Russians have not won. I saved the game right there. Saved it. Alright, so we're at the end. We take the blocks off. We do discards. Russian player is going to keep the fall back, but he does draw in its place a march card. Play before activating one of your units. 2 units situated 1 or 2 squares from one of your officers can immediately move 2 squared. Well, we have that. I'm not going to read the whole card because my officer is way in the back. Well, the DB-28 could use it. And I'm going to keep my 2 German cards. I have the second chance and the initiative. And like I said, I keep forgetting I have them. Those could make a difference here in a minute. Alright. I advance the turn tracker. It is now turn 4, German player. German player is going to decide what to do. He's going to have him go first, him go second. Here's the dummy. And then I'm just going to mix these up. And there. Alright, German player first. This guy goes. Okay, look here. The Frontovik, whatever they are, they only have 1 hit. They are +2 versus infantry. They haven't been hit. Now fire team is +2. They've been hit. They only need 1 more hit to be eliminated, and they're +1. This right here is probably the best bang for the buck. Problem is, they need a 5 to hit. Ooh. So actually the MG34 unit would be better to shoot at them. So that means this unit here, they're going to go ahead and attack this fire team here. So we are within 7, so no penalty for range. I get +2. They are 5 defense, so I need to roll a 3 or higher. And I got a die 6 right here. 3 or higher. Rolled a 2. Okay, well that didn't work out. So they're done. I forget to leave these down so I remember who's activated, who hasn't. So my number 1 went. So their number 1 is this guy. So this fire team says we need to get them out of here so they can secure the objective. So they're going to fire +1. I have a 4 defense, so they're also hitting on a 3. So I'm going to grab a Russian die. They rolled a 4. I don't know if that's the best dice rolling technique, but that means they're hurt. Then my number 2. See, they haven't gone. And again, because it's hidden, I don't know which. See, this is the bluff. I'm glad I played it like this. I don't know which unit to go for. They're going to take 2 hits to eliminate, and they have a +2. But if I hit them, they'll drop to a 1. They also have a +2, but they have 1. I'm going to go for this unit right here. So we're going to try and kill them. So again, I have +4 versus infantry. They are +5 defense. So I need a 1 or higher. That's a hit. That is an instant hit. I can't roll lower than that. I'm going to roll this die, add 4. I rolled a 1. +4 is 5. So I did hit this unit. And look at that. That was the bluff unit. But they're out of there though. They're out. So they're eliminated. And the problem with that is this is the number 2 unit, right? And that's what I was saying. If I could hurt them, that would weaken their chance to hit. But as it stands, they're +2. They could assault, which we'll probably do. Let me reread the assault real quick. We'll come back. And, go big or go home. And the only reason why is because I'm going to have a slight advantage because I think you add your infantry bonus here. They get +2. He's only got +1. So that means the odds of me winning are pretty good. So let me just pause this real quick and come back after we reread the assault rules. Okay, it is kind of what I remembered. So basically, you declare the assault, so they're going to move in there. And it says, the rules are just ever so slightly off a little bit. It says that you resolve it before you move, but then it says based on the results, the attacker or defender has to move back if they lose, kind of a thing. But this is fine because we're going to declare it. And if you have the dagger symbol, which they do, and so does the defender, that means the attacker and defender will each roll 2 dice, and then you add your combat value. So that gives me the slight edge for the Russian player. Now, if this was a dagger symbol that had a number next to it, I would also add that. So there are some units that specialize in assault. None of these. I did have some in St. Mary Glees, some of the airborne. They have they specialize in that. Okay, so we're going to simultaneously roll here. And you take the best. See, check this out. And because the Russian player has the advantage there with a +1, well, +2, the Germans had +1 on their infantry value, so I just said +1 for the Russian. That actually gave the Russian the victory by 1. So that's why I said they had a slight advantage. Now what that means is, because I'm on my wounded side already, normally they retreat into one of the 3 adjacent squares going away from the attacker, and then they take a point of damage. And that point of damage is enough to eliminate the German player, so he loses that group. Then you can move up and take that, and if there are zone control rules and whatnot, but we're just going to move up. Bing! Done. And that was my number 1. And then we check for the bluff. And essentially, that's it. That's it. The Russians were able to push the Germans off the objective. That's it. That's a game. That is the game in its simplest form. Like I said, as you start to add, here, ammo, I would have to look. See, this is where the game gets fiddly. The counters themselves have symbols, and that will determine a lot of the gameplay mechanics and combat value shifts, changes, adjustments. Like this Frontovic unit here, they have this arrow with a 4. They can only shoot out to 4 hexes. So they're probably some kind of submachine gun assault unit or something like that. This ammo, I would have to go back and read and say, oh, can I use this on an assault, or is that just for firing? You know, it just eventually it's those little minutia things that add up just for the symbology. But once you have that down, it's really good. This allows them to create specialty units that have those special symbols on them, and kind of change the gameplay. So it's very, very nice that they can customize units that way. But it just takes a while to kind of learn, okay, the symbols are what change the basic rules. The basic rules are compare your attacker advantage, compare it with all the defender bonuses of terrain or any cards or abilities you've played, roll a die, and if it's higher than the target number, boom, it's a hit. And you just modify it by the symbols and things. So the game itself, very, very simple. So that's the several phases. You got your initiative, you place your bluff tokens, your order tokens, kind of hide that. Hopefully, even here playing solo kind of shows you the power of that bluffing mechanic when you play like a face-to-face opponent. And even solo, I'm going to use that going forward, where I randomly assign these order tokens, because that did have me thinking there for a second who to attack. But that is a cool aspect of the game. So even solo, you can make that work for you. And then just keeping your officers alive to keep your order tokens. So the Russian player didn't even bring his officer or his DP-28, didn't even use it except for that one time. Mostly it was just to keep the stars. Because once you lose your order, like if I lost this lieutenant, then it would be game over for the German player because he has no orders. That'd just be it. So you got to keep these folks alive. That's why I said in some scenarios where you have like several heroes and each hero has a star, you really are hesitant to bring them into battle because you don't want them to die. You don't want to lose your activation tokens. Some of your units, very few, but like the occasional sniper, activates himself. So he doesn't need an activation token. But all of these units were just basic units. So yeah, this is great. Getting back into the swing of the game. Like I said, I haven't played it in a while, but it's just like hopping back into any game. It starts to come to you. I'll probably look up a couple things later on just to reconfirm how it's done. But generally speaking, that's it in a nutshell. When we do the second scenario, it's going to be a while, I think, before there's vehicles. Not that vehicles are that much more difficult, but see, they did a sample gameplay and they played completely different than me. The next one has, what has it got? The HM group, a support group, some grenades, the basic platoon. Yeah, still more infantry. There is a Horsch 901. It looks more like a transport than an actual like tank or anything. So the second scenario will have a vehicle in it. It's going to be a light vehicle. So that'll give us a few more units to play with. So that was scenario 1, which was, hello boys. Oh, I didn't even read the introductory. I didn't even read the intro to that. Why on earth has our high command ordered us to hold this worthless point that is devoid of any cover? Can any sane person give me a decent answer to this question? Anybody? Guess not, huh? Oh yes, of course. Since a great minds think alike, the enemy's top morons had their very same idea. Why? Never mind, leave it to us simple soldiers to try and find the answers, with rifles and grenades. So yeah, that's what I was saying. There's like no cover. A couple spots had cover, but the objective and all around it, all open terrain. Alright, again, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you another time.